This is a WISN 12 Commitment 2022 election special. Wisconsin candidates in a fierce battle for your vote.
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Extremely tight margins in an all-out battle for Wisconsin governor.
The most people working ever. Our economy is strong, folks.
We have to reduce crime in Milwaukee, and we have to make education better. That's what a governor should do.
A dead heat for the United States Senate with a balance of power at stake.
Join us in healing and unifying and saving America.
It's a fight for freedom. It's a fight for fairness. It's a fight for our future. It's a fight that we can win.
Tonight, 12 News gets the candidates on the record.
Explain how you think that would make the issue better.
How would you vote on your referendum?
They don't think sometimes you fight hard enough.
Do you bear some of the blame for this inability to compromise?
Exclusive conversations with the candidates while the clock is ticking to Election Day.
Good evening. I'm Joyce Garbacia.
And I'm Matt Smith. Thank you for joining us for this Commitment 2022 special. Just days now from a pivotal election in our state and the nation.
Tonight, two incumbents in a fierce fight to keep their seats. Democratic Governor Tony Evers seeking a second term, being challenged by Republican Tim Michels.
And Republican Senator Ron Johnson seeking his third term, challenged by Democrat Mandela Barnes.
Final Marquette University poll before the election released just hours ago.
Tonight, a tie in the race for governor. Both incumbent Governor Tony Evers and Republican Tim Michels with 48%. And developing as we head into the final days of this campaign, a tightening in the race for U.S. Senate from several weeks ago. Republican Senator Ron Johnson with 50% among likely voters. Democrat Mandela Barnes with 48%. The incumbent Johnson had a 6-point lead in October. The Marquette University Law School team is led by poll director Charles Franklin. They questioned 679 likely voters who responded between October 24th and November 1st. The results have a margin of error of 4.8%, which means come Election Day, it's anyone's race.
We begin with the U.S. Senate race. Now, it's important to note that both candidates were invited by 12 News for a debate. Johnson accepted, but Barnes rejected the offer.
Johnson then agreed to sit down with 12 News for an in-depth conversation. No questions off limits. We'll start with the senator making his case for another term. Sir, we want to thank you. We'll kind of set the stage of why we are here today. You and your campaign agreed to a debate with WISN 12. Your opponent, Mandela Barnes, did not. So we thank you for coming and sitting with us and discussing some of these key issues in this race as we're now several weeks away.
You know, Matt, when I began my second term, we retooled my mission statement for the office. We had a couple sentences, appropriate, and I boiled it down to 3 words: to help people. And of course, we have bullet points underneath that. I've got great staff that does wonderful constituent service, but my part, my little bullet point is help people understand. And so I've always felt it was my responsibility to make sure that Wisconsinites knew who I was, where I stood in issues, what my beliefs were, and so I mean that's why I agreed to the debates. It's like it's my responsibility to make sure that people know where I stand. You know, my opponent, Lieutenant Governor, seems to be hiding from Wisconsinites, and that's unfortunate.
Well, one of the questions I have for you, some Republicans say that they cannot vote for you because they can't count on you to protect the Constitution. One recently wrote that you've worked to undermine the peaceful transfer of power, citing, among other things, you held fake hearings on the election to cast doubt on the result, and you've downplayed the violence of January 6th. So what I want to know is, what do you say to Republicans who say they cannot count on you to protect the Constitution?
I'll say, listen to what I actually said, read what I actually wrote. I immediately and forcefully and repeatedly have condemned the violence on January 6th, as I condemned the violence of the 570 riots that occurred during the summer. I did hold a hearing in December of 2020 titled Examining the Irregularities of the 2020 Election. I think it's indisputable that there were irregularities. Observers who couldn't observe. Here in Wisconsin, we have the Legislative Audit Bureau that has 31 different recommendations talking about different issues. You know, election clerks carrying ballots are not allowed to do. What we saw in the nursing homes. So it's just indisputable that there were problems, and it's also indisputable that over the years, people have lost confidence in our elections. I mean, in my opening statement of that hearing, and I'd ask people to read it, should be available on wisfacts.com. I lay out the fact that it's just an unsustainable state of affairs. Starting in 2016, when half the electorate would not recognize that as a legitimate result, fast forward 4 years, and the other half's not accepting that as a legitimate result. So everything I've been trying to do, and my goal remains, to restore confidence in our election system. People, whether you're Democrat, Independent, Republican, you need to feel confident that, first of all, your legitimate vote's not going to be canceled by a fraudulent one, and that whoever wins, Democrat, Independent, Republican, that's a legitimate result. We're not at that stage right now for a number of reasons, but I mean, that ought to be the goal. In terms of specifically, as soon as the Electoral College voted, I acknowledge then Vice President, but now President Biden as the president-elect. I was repeatedly on talk radio between that point and January 6th saying that I saw no scenario in which any of Biden's electors would be disallowed.
Senator, I want to ask you about the economy. Voters say record high inflation is the biggest concern for many of them. Democrats have touted the Inflation Reduction Act. Let's say Republicans do regain control of the Senate or Congress. I'm curious what Republicans' plan is. What is the solution?
Well, from my standpoint, we need to dramatically reduce the deficit spending. I would like to bring back function to the Senate, and this is one of the things I've been talking about, imposing, if we have the majority, imposing our leadership. Stick to a schedule on the calendar where we actually pass a budget, not just for a reconciliation bill, but I mean pass a budget to drive the appropriation process. Recognize within that budget that you're not going to bring deficit spending to an immediate halt, so you probably have to increase the debt ceiling. But then use the debt ceiling the way it was intended to be used. If you're going to take that painful vote, make sure you're attaching to it different types of fiscal controls. I have 4 bills in mind. One would be Preventing Government Shutdown Act. That's a bipartisan bill I passed twice through my committee. It never got a good vote on the floor of the Senate. All that does is it follows Wisconsin's example. If you have dysfunction in government and you're not funding an agency or the whole government, you don't shut it down. You just fund it at last year's level until you bring some function back and actually appropriate the funds for it. The REINS Act, we overregulate our economy. This is a way to restrain the growth of unreasonable regulations. The full faith and credit to make sure that we would never default on our debt. And then the 4th bill is one I introduced in 2012, one of my first bills, reducing the size of the federal government through Attrition Act. You don't have to fire anybody, just quit hiring people, including don't hire 87,000 new IRS agents who are going to be coming after middle-class Wisconsinites.
The president recently said if the GOP regains control of Congress, prices will go even higher, inflation will get even worse. Can you promise if Republicans gain control of Congress, prices won't go up?
He's saying that because he's baked inflation into the cake. The massive partisan deficit spending of the Biden administration sparked inflation. I was concerned about inflation even under the previous administration, which is why I stopped voting for the COVID relief bills, because every time we brought another one up, there was like $1 trillion left from the previous COVID relief bill. That happened about 3 different times in a row. When we finally got to the Biden administration, they passed a $1.9 trillion COVID relief package. $700 billion of that wasn't even going to be spent, parts of it, till the year 2028. So again, it's just a liberal spending wish list. But at that time, there's about $1.25 trillion left unspent from the previous $4 trillion. So I was concerned about inflation. And let's face it, when this administration started, we were at 1.4% inflation. We might have dodged the bullet had we stopped the massive deficit spending, but Democrats took power, passed a $1.9 trillion deficit causing, but inflation causing COVID relief package, and that sparked inflation. So here we are, over 8%. $1 Wisconsinites held at the start of the Biden administration is only worth 88.3 cents.
I want to ask you about abortion now, because you've said you don't want members of Congress deciding this issue. You don't want Supreme Court justices deciding this issue. In fact, your campaign has put forth a sample ballot asking at what point...
No, that's my sample ballot.
Right.
No, I wrote that.
Yours. Okay, yeah. Fine. At what point does society have the responsibility to protect the life of an unborn child, giving voters 10 options starting from the moment of conception, 1 month, 2 months, and all the way to never, an unborn child has no right to life. So I'm curious, how would you vote on your referendum?
Well, first of all, let me just say this is not a new idea for me. Shortly after Roe v. Wade was decided, I went down to the Museum of Science and Industry down in Chicago. If you've ever been there, they have a wonderful display. I always called it babies in a jar. That's 36 literal jars, starting with an egg all the way to a full-term baby. And I always thought the way to decide the abortion issue, again, the profound moral issue that it is, where you have to balance the rights of a mother against the rights of an unborn child, would be do a long longitudinal study and have people go up to that museum and say, well, this is the point right here. Visually looking at what an unborn child looks like, here's the point that we ought to start protecting that life. And so this referendum is just very similar to that. I'm trying to, for 50 years, because of Roe v. Wade, when 9 justices decided this for all society, didn't solve the issue. This has been an incredibly divisive issue for 50 years. So the reason I appreciated overturning Roe, I think it was wrongly decided, but finally it brought this decision, this profound moral issue, for we the people to decide. So I didn't want 9 justices to decide it. I didn't want 535 members of Congress to decide it. I don't want 132 members of the Wisconsin legislature to decide this. I want we the people. And so I'm trying to come up with a process, and I think this is the right process.
So where do you stand on
it's really a moot point. Because I've come up with a process where in Wisconsin I would have 1 vote along with, let's say, approximately 3 million people would vote. I may not agree with the end result, but I would accept the results of what I would hope would be a binding referendum. And again, but also only after a very thorough and thoughtful and compassionate discussion of this, which we really haven't had for 50 years. Have a single issue referendum, and we all go to the poll, and again, I would get 1 vote. So exactly where I stand, this is literally irrelevant. I'm willing to.
No, but I think, sir,
I'm willing to set my personal opinion aside.
But you're a leader. People look up to you, and they want to know where you stand on a referendum question that you created.
I am leading by setting up a process for us to develop a consensus that we can accept as a society, and hopefully once and for all put this divisive issue behind us and move forward to starting to talk about these other incredibly difficult issues we have to face as a nation.
Well, let's say that the referendum will not advance just because of the history of having that happen in the state.
Can I say, what I will promise Wisconsin voters is, if reelected, I will use every ounce of my influence to convince the governor and the legislature to move forward on a single issue referendum. I was with the state senator yesterday making that point. If I survive this thing, I'm still involved in public policy. I'll be putting pressure on you guys to bring up that referendum. By the way, that's not what they voted on a couple weeks ago. That was basically an up or down vote on a referendum to codify Roe. That's not what this is. This is, a way to develop that consensus.
Well, let's say you are successful in your return to the Senate. If Lindsey Graham's 15-week abortion ban comes before you, how will you vote on that?
Well, first of all, I'll do everything I can to not bring that to a vote. It's at this point in time that is not appropriate for. Again, I don't want 9 justices. I don't want 535 members. I don't want 132 members here. I want we the people. Allow this process to play out here. Let's not jump to another vote that's not going to be accepted by the public.
We got a lot of other things. I just want you to clarify, because back to the TV ads I was referencing. Do you support exceptions, whether it be rape?
Yes, I always have. And by the way, go to wisfacts.com. I've laid out a pretty long list of all the issues involved with abortion and what my thoughts are. I'm for contraceptive. I'm all, for in vitro fertilization. My daughter had two of my grandchildren through gestational surrogacy. So I'm for all those things.
Senator, let's talk about crime and public safety, another top issue for voters here in the state. You've talked a lot about it on the campaign trail. You've also said you're not eager for more federal funding, right? Or more federal spending to potentially, whether it be sent to states.
$31 trillion in debt.
So my question for you, when cities like Milwaukee and large metros across the country say, listen, this is a funding problem, we just don't have enough money to hire more police officers, what is the solution from Congress?
Well, first of all, you have to support law enforcement. And I cannot tell you how detrimental the whole defund police, the hostility toward police. I mean, let's face it, my opponent was on Russia Today 6 times as a member of the State Assembly, 6 times. A couple days after the horrific murder of 5 Dallas police officers, he's basically rationalizing those murders. Here, so I don't misquote him, let me tell you exactly what he said. He said that police brutality is a total epidemic. He said that the police officers, this is in Dallas, are over-exercising their badges, turn their badges into a license to bully. He said that the Dallas attack was probably a retaliatory attack. Again, this is on top of the fact that the State Department has said that Russia Today, its main tactics for weakening adversaries are to discredit, divide, disarm, and demoralize them. And the New York Times says the goal of Russia Today is to push divisive racial narratives, including stories emphasizing allegations of police abuse. So my opponent goes on Vladimir Putin, war criminal Vladimir Putin's propaganda channel, rationalizes the murder of 5 Dallas police officers, just plays right into Vladimir Putin's propaganda meant to dispirit Americans, divide us, weaken us. That's what he's done. But if the so again, how do you keep our streets safe if you don't have law enforcement? If you're hostile toward law enforcement, if you're more concerned about the criminal than you are about the victim?
But if the funding isn't there,
well, but it starts with supporting them.
Is that enough?
And then understand, just like on national level, what I say, what should we start off with in terms of funding government? Defense. Our Constitution, I think defense is mentioned 8 times. It's a top priority government. You can't have a strong economy if you don't have national defense, if you don't have a secure border. You can't have a strong economy in a community if you don't have safe streets. So at every level of government, whether it's local, whether it's state, whether it's federal, you have to recognize as you're doling out the money, hard-working, the money from hard-working taxpayers, when you're deciding how to spend that, you have to spend as a top priority law enforcement and national defense and homeland security. And unfortunately, we've gotten away from those priorities, and certainly my opponent, Mandela Barnes, it pains him to see fully funded police budgets.
Senator, at your recent appearance before the Milwaukee Rotary, you asked attendees if they were getting tired of all the division and anger. You said you find it exhausting and that it weakens the country. So I want to ask you, what have you done in the last 6 months to unify Wisconsinites?
Well, I will tell you, one of the last people I talked to as I left the Senate was, I won't mention the name, but a Democrat senator who I've worked on in the past on the immigration issue and securing our border and fixing our broken immigration law. And I said, if I survive this, we need to get together and we need to fix this problem. So what I think the only way we start unifying is first of all, be telling the truth. And that's what I promised in 2010. I'd always tell you the truth, never vote or conduct myself with my re-election mind. I've honored that promise. Unfortunately, our politics today has become very vicious, and again, I have to be honest. The other side lies with impunity. It's the end always justifies the means, and unfortunately, too many members of the media are also liberal, and they amplify those lies. I've seen it happen time and time again. It's not fun being on the receiving end of lies and character assassination, but that's what this campaign has really devolved down to. The good news is from our campaign, all we're doing is telling the truth about Mandela Barnes. We're just telling the truth.
So unifying Wisconsinites, the answer to the question?
Truth. You have to convey the truth relentlessly. And of course, that's one of the things I've done in Congress through my investigations, through my oversight. We're just trying to expose a lot of the corruption that exists in Washington, D.C.
I want to ask you about the Presidential Election Reform Act, and it's in direct response to January 6th that reaffirms that the Vice President has no role in validating election. Will you vote for this legislation should you be returned to the Senate?
The one I think you're talking about is the one that's been, I think it's introduced in the Senate, and I would. Again, let me repeat. I acknowledged that President Biden was the president-elect as soon as the Electoral College spoke or voted. I said repeatedly on talk radio that I saw no scenario whatsoever where any of Biden's electors would be disallowed. I was right on that, by the way. So if we need to tighten this thing up so there's no doubt of how the process works, I don't have a problem with doing so.
I just want to follow up on your immigration comments. So there is a Democratic senator that you are either having conversations with or would be willing to have conversations with. The White House has indicated potential conversations after the midterms on immigration? Is there any room for immigration?
Well, but it has to start with securing our border, and that's what's such a travesty about what Biden did. You know, we pretty well had the border secure enough to take the next step. Because of the return to Mexico policy, the agreements we had in place with Central America, and by the way, the return to Mexico policy was really an offshoot of my Operation Safe Return, which I did with Kyrsten Sinema and some other Republican colleagues working with DHS. That became, kind of morphed into Return to Mexico. It worked. We'd pretty well shut down the flow of unaccompanied children and family units who, by the way, are abused horribly by some of the most evil people on the planet, the human traffickers. People have to understand that's an aspect the news media is not reporting on. That's what's so awful about illegal immigration. I mean, the illegal immigrants themselves are abused by the traffickers. But we'd pretty well shut down unaccompanied children, family units. We'd cut illegal immigration by single adults in half. But then the presidential debate started. Democrat candidates said they were going to stop end deportation and offer free health care. So all of a sudden, you can see the charts, my chart. All of a sudden, illegal immigration by single adults started increasing, and then Biden came into office, threw open the border, and now we have an explosion. 7,000 people a day on average. So the first step is you have to return to that secure border that we had.
Trump-era policies.
Yeah, I mean, let's give the former president credit for this. Without Congress passing a law through just force of will, again, I would say a pretty good idea on Operation Safe Return, which morphed into Return to Mexico. Pretty well had the border secure. And by the way, I was working with the administration. I thought a very reasonable immigration policy. We had taken about 100 visas, limit those, taken those down to about 6, award them on a metric system based on economic activity. We'd allow family members in too. That'd be a really good system. We would have taken care of DACA. So I know President Trump wanted to take care of the DACA kids, but you can only do these things after you secure the border. Reagan found that out. The promise was grant amnesty, we'll secure the border. The amnesty was granted, which just created further incentive for more illegal immigration, and we never secured the border. We can't make that mistake twice.
Should former President Trump run again in 2024? Can he count on you for support?
So I'm worried about this election, this cycle.
All right, Senator, we're getting the wrap. We appreciate your time. Thank you for sitting down with us. We really appreciate it. Senator Johnson also shared his thoughts about the FBI search on Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate, enforcing gun laws and Social Security.
See the entire interview by clicking on the Commitment 2022 page on WISN.com.
Next, the challenger, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes.
How much blame does your party have for where we are today?
National Democrats trying to maintain control of the U.S. Senate. And later, who will lead Wisconsin?
Do you support any limit as to when a woman can have an abortion?
Are you willing to support exceptions for rape or incest?
An in-depth look at the issues that divide Republican Tim Michels and Democratic incumbent Tony Evers.